तू चलता चल तू चलता चल तू चलता चल तू बढ़ता.
So, from the start, Vaibhav, please share your SSB experience.
Okay, so ma'am, this was my eighth attempt. I've already been to, 7 attempts for SSB, and those were mainly for I went for army, but this was FCAT entry. So in written, I scored 228 marks. Then I went for SSB and I made through. I got recommendation from 2 AFSB Mysuru, ma'am.
Okay. Vaibhav, okay, from the 5-day SSB process, what highlights you would like to give? How was your experience after so many attempts? So please cover it in detail.
Ma'am, after first 3 attempts, so in initial attempts, I wasn't good at communication skill, knowledge, and I lagged in other areas. So it also had a background just because, I came from a setup, especially where I thought ki Fauj matlab you need to be serious, very strict, and you just require Josh, Jazba, courage. That's all to be in forces. So that was my interpretation of, being part of army. But later on, when I went for SSBs, I realized that it was important to have knowledge as well as communication skill. Otherwise, you won't be able to communicate with the person in front. So, ma'am, first 2 attempts were I went for army. Those were in 19 SSB board Allahabad. So there I couldn't do anything much. My GTO was okay, but especially ground tasks. But when it came to GD, GP, and other things, I was not able to do. That happened in next attempt also. But after third attempt, ma'am, I prepared well on these fronts as I was, told by sir to improve on the skill set I already said, knowledge, communication skills and all. So in during my graduation, I worked on my academics also. I improved my knowledge on different areas. Communication skills also improved. Then I went for SSB again, but I got screened out twice. When I was at the peak of my, college days, being a student representative in college, I was topper in my batch, in my program. But, at the time when I thought I'll make through in first attempt, after graduation, I was screened out. So for 2 attempts, it was followed by IMA SSB. There also I got a conference out. Then again, I went for IMA SSB. I got conference out. But in these attempts, what I could realize, I had no specific reason to point out because I discussed it with sir also and Brigadier Uncle, Brigadier Shashank Pratap. But I couldn't trace much. So I just kept on working and finally I made through. The only difference which I realized in my, initial 7 attempts and the final one in which I got recommendation was one. Every time I used to keep thinking during the process, means in those 5 days, okay, I have done, good here, I can improve in GD or whichever task it is. But this time I said, okay, let me appear for the process and whatever introspection, retrospection I have to do, I'll do it after conference. So every time I used to call even sir in my SSB days, sir, aaj ye hua, or I did that way. But this time I didn't call sir. I said I'll talk to him after conference. And I made through now. Fine. This is the only difference.
Great to know, Vaibhav. I'm sure you made tremendous improvement since whenever I spoke to you, I could never figure out lack of knowledge or communication skills. So,
Ma'am, sir can tell you which kind of chap I was when I met him. Once sir asked me to write something about, Indian geography, geographical location. So you write coordinates, longitudes, latitudes. So instead of writing 8 degree 4 minute north, I wrote 8 degree 4 minute south. So sir said, ki, you don't know latitudes, longitudes. How will be, how you think that you'll be officer? So that was the first time sir scolded me. But after that, I ensured that, I improved on every front.
Coming to scoldings, we've been discussing this in a lot of interviews that, some students, they really feel bad when sir scolds them. How did you take it?
मैम मुझे फौज में जाना था मैम. It was my childhood dream. तो मतलब initially मैम I haven't met any officer. So since childhood I knew I want to be in forces. But when I got in contact with Brigadier Uncle and Colonel Sir, so it was a big dream to talk to an officer. Okay, scolding also was a big thing, a big reward for me. कि मतलब इतना बड़ा अफसर मुझे डांटा that way.
ये वैसे मैंने वैभव पहली बार सुना है कि स्कोल्डिंग वाज अ रिवॉर्ड.
Ma'am, obviously, ma'am, for me, it was, dream you talk to some officer. Otherwise,
No, it's
I'm
good.
already,
It's good you are taking it in a healthy way, and I am sure everybody should take it in a healthy way. That is only when you can improve.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so going ahead, Vaibhav, how was your interview? I would like to know. I mean, not exactly the questions asked, but like students
ma'am.
say, we were grilled enough, and so I would like you to share your interview experience as well.
Okay, ma'am. So I'll take, a little bit back. I'll talk about, my first two interviews when I went initially. So I was interviewed by the same officer when I went for my first and second SSB, as I reported in the same board. So there, because when I went for my first SSB, I had talked to Colonel Sir. So he said, be truthful. So I went there and whatever question he asked me, I answered. So when I went to the same interviewing officer second time, he didn't ask me questions, okay? Instead, he asked me, what do you think were shortcomings in previous attempts? Acha, before I entered the room, he recognized me. He said, you're back? I said, sir, I'm back. So he told me, okay, these are the areas you improve. Acha, then he asked me, what were the mistakes that I did in the previous attempt? I said, sir, I was not able to speak and all. So he said, the way, you find elders speaking in family issues, sometimes there is shore saraba and all, but they contain everything. You try to act same way. But I was not able to do, ma'am, because I had no knowledge. So interview, I was, always confident because I am truthful. And what I do, I, take pride in it, whatever it is, whether studies, extracurriculars, or, decisions I take, everywhere I am confident. And that continued for third SSB also. But when I went after graduations, just because of repeated means failures at SSB, getting non-recommendations, I became too conscious of answering questions, especially in my last two IMA attempts before I got recommendation. But when I went for my AFCAT interview, I was sitting in waiting hall and I was to be interviewed by the board president. So I said, if I get a group captain, I think I'm talking to Colonel M. If I get an air commodore, I think I am talking to Brigadier Sergeant. So I went inside. So, ma'am, I was truthful. You can call it blunt. Jo seedha pucha, seedha bola. No fear, nothing. So I'll give you some, how I answered few of the questions. Like he started with most of the time you have went for army. How come you landed in Air Force for Air Force SSB? तो मैंने बोला, मैं कहा सर 12वीं तक तो पता ही नहीं था आर्मी के अलावा कुछ होता है. इन माय ग्रेजुएशंस आई गॉट टू नो. अच्छा, इवन व्हेन आई गॉट टू नो अबाउट एफर्ट, सो आई एम मोर इंटरेस्टेड इन कॉम्बैट. आई वांट टू बी पार्ट ऑफ कॉम्बैट. So I said, sir, later on I got to know about Garud forces. So I think I'll be suited for the job. That's why I'm here. Then he asked me, you have already gone for 1 or 2 AFSB attempts, but you got screened out. Then I said, sir, I performed same way. There you didn't take me, here you took me. What else can I say? So these were blunt answers that I gave. Then he went on to ask me कि तुम बात करते हो तो तुम्हारे अंदर एग्रेशन बहुत है. मैं बोला, सर एग्रेशन मेरी स्ट्रेंथ है. बोला, टेल मी हाउ. I said, sir, before I am a decent player. I play most of the outdoor games, but ऐसा नहीं कि I have special skills to go into matches and win. But one thing I have, if I'm playing a a team game, I pump up my players in a way that they are so much charged up that we win match half of the match before we get into means real life situation means match. So this is how I explained him. And there were other questions also, ma'am. He said ki you should join special forces means army ka, और गरुड़ में तो कोई legacy नहीं है. So I laughed and said, legacy नहीं तो sir legacy बना देंगे. These were kind of answers I gave, and these were, ma'am, spontaneous. And I don't find he grilled me. Obviously, even if I talk to someone and somebody answers me to the questions I have asked, obviously in case I think I should go in deep, so I'll ask follow-up questions. So I don't find there is grilling or something like that in SSB. I don't agree with it now.
Very nice, Vaibhav. You call your answers blunt. I call them being what you are. So that's how you have to be in the interview, and you were not trying to fake it out. That's why I guess you could make it. So okay,
Yes, ma'am.
moving ahead, Weber. So since you have given quite a few attempts, kabhi self doubt aaya?
Ma'am, after graduations, when I went for two, one was I was in my final year of graduation. I qualified CDS, but somehow I, take Air Force as my first preference. तो उधर तो मैम सुबह सुबह गया तो मुझे वहाँ का सराउंडिंग ही नहीं अच्छा लग रहा था. बट आई सेड ओके चलो इफ आई पास एसएसबी आई विल गेट अपॉर्चुनिटी टू गो इन आर्मी. बट आई गॉट स्क्रीन्ड आउट. आई हैड नो क्लू. आई टॉक टू सर. कुछ नहीं हुआ. फिर नेक्स्ट अटेम्प्ट अगेन आई वेंट फॉर दैट वाज एफकैट ओनली. आई वेंट टू वाराणसी. And there also I got screened out. Then I was in, bit doubtful. मैं बोला ये when I'm most prepared, I'm not able to make through because people say your narration should be good. So the chaps who have participated with me in group activities and all, they know that my narration is good. OIR, ma'am, it's my strength. GD also I participate well. So these were 2 attempts when I really started thinking about whether होगा कि नहीं होगा, how long will it take. And बीच पे मैम ये भी सोचा, I discussed with sir and brigadier and all. They said okay, you look for other options. So I planned to go and study masters abroad. I was thinking, I went through different consultation forms and all. I got my degree, certificates, extracurricular achievement check. So they were saying okay, I'll get some scholarship of 40-45%. कुछ दिन तक मैम सोचा. उसके बाद फिर अचानक से I was sitting at I said कि जिंदगी एक है इधर. मतलब मैम this is going in forces have been my childhood dream. I'll say कि जब से मुझे चीजें याद हैं कि मुझे फौज में जाना है. Just the way you have kids telling okay I want to play with this ये मतलब ये game. So for me since मतलब जब से मुझे याद आता है I want to be in forces. So finally I decided कि चलो ठीक है, let me stay in India, and I got admission in masters in Ambedkar University Delhi, and I said okay I'll try till last attempt, and this is how I made through.
Since you mentioned that you've been wanting to get into forces since childhood, you have any idol? You have ever had any idol? या बस
नहीं मैम, क्या होता था कि my grandfather used to narrate me stories and all. So ma'am, we are Rajputs. So हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है कि we are often told story that our forefathers fought against Britishers in 1857. अच्छा, उसके बाद क्या हुआ कि my गांव मींस विलेज इज नोन फॉर फाइटिंग एंड ऑल. वो आपस में लड़ाई करते रहते हैं. तो मैं ये सोचता था कि अगर ये बंदे आपस में लड़ाई करके इतनी अपनी वो मतलब बताते हैं इतना ब्रेव और वो, तो बाबा यूज्ड टू टेल अबाउट फोर्सेस. तो मैं बोलता तो उसमें जाके लड़ेंगे तो उसमें और ज्यादा फिर रिकॉग्निशन मिलेगी, रिस्पेक्ट इन सोसाइटी. तो दैट्स हाउ आई थॉट. बट आई हैड नो आइडिया. अच्छा, मेरे बाबा को ही न्यू कि फौज में सबसे बड़ी जो पोजीशन होती है वो सूबेदार मेजर की होती है. तो ही यूज्ड टू से कि तुम सूबेदार मेजर बनना. मतलब उस समय समझता था मैं. फिर हम थोड़ा सा शिफ्ट हुए. वी केम टू NH56 रोड साइड पे आ गए तो स्कूल जाने के लिए. सो देयर आई हैव सीन आर्मी पीपल गोइंग इन कॉन्वॉयज. तो एक वो मैम ग्रिम से याद आता है. देन आई वेंट फॉर वन. आई हैड अ फ्रेंड कॉल्ड सौरभ मिश्रा. सो हिज फादर वाज इन आर्मी. सो ड्यू टू सम एक्सीडेंट एंड ऑल ही गॉट प्री रिटायरमेंट ऐसे करके. तो उससे मतलब ही यूज्ड टू टेल अबाउट आर्मी. Then I went for Gorakhal सैनिक स्कूल एग्जामिनेशन. तो पहली बार वहां पे हम लोग एग्जामिनेशन सेंटर में बैठे हुए थे. वी आर राइटिंग एग्जाम. फर्स्ट टाइम आई सॉ ऑफिसर ओके कमिंग इनसाइड. So he came. अच्छा, what happens if you go for other competitive exams or anywhere? So you are seated at a distance, okay, and you are said कि you need not to cheat. You'll have invigilators and all. वहां पे कुछ नहीं था मैम. We were sitting next to each other. And just what happened, that officer came. He said फौज में कभी चीटिंग मतलब उस समय व्हाट वर्ड ही यूज्ड आई डोंट रिमेंबर, बट ही जस्ट ट्राइड टू से कि चीटिंग और ये नहीं होता है, हमेशा अपने उसूल का पक्का होता है. एक तो मैम ये मेमोरी है. फिर वहां पे आई सॉ सम पिक्चर ऑफ कैप्टन मनोज पांडे. उस स्कूल में लगाओ बिकॉज ही वाज फ्रॉम सैनिक स्कूल लखनऊ. और एक मैम वो होता है पोजीशन जैसे गन को नीचे पिन पॉइंट करते हैं और गन के ऊपर कैप रखी होती है. दैट डिफाइंस मतलब शहादत ऐसे करके. सो आई केम आउट. माय डैड वाज विद मी. ही इज इन पुलिस. So I said, Papa, ये क्या है? Then you should told me कि ये respect के लिए करते हैं. So these are ma'am few of the I would say instances through which मुझे थोड़ा थोड़ा आर्मी के बारे में पता था. और सबसे अच्छी चीज ये लगती थी कि about their work, that in most tiring times, okay, you have war, they are in front. You have natural disaster, they are in front. any situation, okay, even in case you know you have disturbances in cities, riot like situation, you send them, they'll fix it everything. So that's how, ma'am, slowly that kept on building up, and I knew I have to go in forces, but ये नहीं पता था कैसे जाएंगे. That was, you know, when I came to 9th 10th standard, slowly I got to know. In one line, if I have to say, my whatever I have done till today or whatever I am doing, see, I repeat one thing, that you know I am not good at academics, but I became good in academics just because I have to go in forces. अगर नहीं होता तो शायद मैं पढ़ता भी नहीं. I would have done something else. So, ma'am, that feeling is, you know, very strong. Still, I want to be part of army, although I made through for Air Force, but I want to go for army.
Very interesting to know the background, Vaibhav. तो फिर आप लड़ाई के लिए तैयार हो? Since you've been mentioning यहाँ लड़ाई वहाँ लड़ाई.
Yes, ma'am. Always. Ma'am, पता है, मतलब after 12th, when I went for SSB, so I said कि people said if you have to improve your English, you have to read books. So I got first book was of Captain Vikram Batra. Achha, that happened because for written exam, I and my friend Ankit, he's in IMA now, we both went for NDA coaching. So we went to Chandigarh. So there, you know, people who were means teachers there, they told us about Captain Vikram Batra. So वहाँ पे there was a मंदिर called, I don't remember the name, but he used to visit that temple with his girlfriend. तो मैं वो मंदिर ढूंढते गया था देखने कि ये मंदिर कैसा होगा जो यहाँ पे आता था. So first book that I read was about Captain Vikram Batra. और फिर मैम 2-3 बुक पढ़ा, उसके बाद फिर मैंने बुक पढ़ना छोड़ दिया. मुझे ये लगता था कि द वे दे थिंक सेम वे आई थिंक. मैं बोला कि नहीं, वो कॉपी हो जाएगा, तो लेट मी स्टॉप. देन आई डिडंट रीड एनी आर्मी बुक, आई लेफ्ट.
Nice, Vaibhav. कोई बात नहीं, we'll read your book one day wherever you write it, probably. It would be great to know your story. Okay, so that's all I had to ask from Vaibhav. I'll pass it on to Col Nehru now. Sir, if you have any questions from Vaibhav, otherwise we can take it from students.
Vaibhav and I have a pretty long relationship. He started his journey when he was appearing for his first NDA SSB. And that time I had told him that you're quite okay, you're quite fit for selection, but your language and general knowledge needs improvement. But that time he was quite confident. He thought that okay, ho jayega. Anyway, things didn't work out that time. But then definitely Vaibhav has been a tremendous student. And whatever improvements were desired, he had the motivation, which you can see in the words he's speaking now. He had his motivation absolutely solid, and that kept him going. And that, you know, how he grew when he came to Delhi University. He was a topper in his economics, then he was a student leader, he won the election. And in his journey, actually, my role has not been much. More has been the role of Shashank, who he has known, and he has made him solve, I do not know how many group planning exercises and how many essays he would have written on, I don't know what all topics. So sometimes Shashank used to tell me, okay, you know, I'm asking this boy to do this. And, you know, actually, when Vaibhav was not, you used to see Vaibhav not getting recommended. Vaibhav से मेरी बात होती थी मुश्किल से 2 मिनट. मेरी 10 मिनट बात होती थी ब्रिगेडियर शशांक. He used to be very, very sad. कि यार, you know, and he used to start cursing the selection system. कि, you know, इतना कुछ किया लड़के ने, सब कुछ किया and all that. And I could see his feelings, you know. And that is what I am sharing with Vaibhav. You may not be knowing. He used to be very much concerned. And I think he even told you that तू छोड़ यार SSB वगैरह का system ही ठीक नहीं है. Did he tell you that?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So I used to console Vaibhav little less. Shashank has to console a lot. कि नहीं यार system में faith रखो. Selection होगा पक्का होगा. Don't worry, because he is competent. So that is how you know our association has been, and it has been great seeing him improve. And actually अब वैभव की बात तो बन गई है. Now I am concerned about कि शिवांग जो है वो अपने सही लाइन पे चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा, because his selection is still due. So that is what it is. I really don't have any question to ask Vaibhav. we know each other too well.
Sir, just one thing I want to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, since I came to Delhi, मतलब घर में तो if I even talk also, तो घर वाले मतलब मम्मी used to often say क्या इसमें चक्कर में पड़े हो, होता नहीं बार बार, do you become teacher, you become some other job, take up. पापा बोलते थे कि ये पुलिस में हूँ इसलिए he is not, मतलब army people have some kind of conflict, whatever they call it. So मैम सिचुएशन वाज सच कि मैं जितनी बात अपने घर में नहीं करता हूँ उससे ज्यादा आई टॉक टू आई शेयर माय थिंग्स, एवरीथिंग आई शेयर विद कर्नल सर एंड ब्रिगेडियर अंकल. दे नो अबाउट एवरीथिंग बिट बाय बिट. मतलब इवन इन माय फैमिली माय फादर नोज, माय मदर नोज कि अगर घर में किसी को कुछ नहीं पता है तो ब्रिगेडियर साहब को पता होगा या तो कर्नल सर को पता होगा.
Anyway, that is so nice of you, and it is always good to it's I mean, it's a great feeling of what validation when someone we have guided and he performs the way one should and delivers the goods, and the frustration was there with me also. It does happen. I mean, because when students go and when I'm feeling selection hona chahiye nahi hota hai, we do feel bad. But unlike Shashank, I don't really have anyone to share my feelings with. So I keep my thoughts to myself. But it is very, very good that Vaibhav made it now. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
You've done great. Congratulations.
Sir. Thank you, sir.